right, guys. Muted for some reason. All right, it's the Why I'm Angry podcast. Getting on here. Just wanted to kind of give you guys a background view here. Um, this is going to be one of the last few episodes, and in the case, unless something crazy goes on, this will be the last few episodes of the year. I'm the chef here in the Man Cave studio. You can kind of see the Man Cave studio as we show the entrance here. You can kind of see there's stuff everywhere. We're working on different projects. I've got the Christmas lights in the background there. This is kind of how the magic is made. Nothing super exciting or super expensive or anything here. We've just got the standard studio green screen, and you can kind of see that's how we get everything kind of going is by using honestly a secondhand $500 Mac Mini and a couple old phones. I've got the main camera here is a Note 9. Makes a great camera to just give me the main screen. We got some $14 lights from Menards. You can see there's shadows. If you watch it or anything like that, you can see the video wise, there's shadows. I've got a nice mic. It's a blue Spark, and we're using Ecamm, which is kind of an industry standard. So we're trying to use the best kind of quality components. But the thing that we're falling behind on right now, in all honesty, is content, is being able to decipher and bring in the content that we need. We're trying to do a lot of it without the AI. I've been on the cusp of it and used some animation, made some animation, and things like that. But honestly, just like a 10-minute piece of animation takes 3 or 4 hours to actually get it right, to create the right animation for it, the actual graphics and stuff that you see, and and then also to get the voice right, to get the person, it to the right talent. And so far the voices and things that you've heard have been mine, on the extra AI and things like that. We've been trying to work with the guys and just get the time to record, but we're all working, full-time jobs, or I've got, my kid, and then I'm working a part-time job just to keep things going also. And so really tonight I'm kind of getting on here um to say we need we need more support than we let on. Sometimes if you don't ask, you don't receive. And so we joke about, or we kind of lightheartedly say, you know, you want to be part of the podcast, get on our email and send us the articles that you see. Well, it's not as lighthearted as I say. I need the help because to create a podcast, to get on and be able to really create the level of podcast that we want to, we need to take those hours of that we normally are siphoning through all of the news and getting through all of, the standard, you know, boring regular stuff. And you know, we need that time to be able to create, the bits on the side, all of the, the animations and things that you see on the show side of things. at the same time as making sure that we're creating engaging, you know, content for the audio side of things. And you may have noticed over the last, about 6 months or so, I haven't involved a lot of extra help and a lot of extra, voices on the podcast because every single one of those voices have been going through a transition time. They've bought houses, they've gotten married, they've changed jobs, and all of those things are major life changes. And although, throughout this podcast over the last 5 years, you know, I've had a kid and I've changed jobs, and you've seen that the podcast hasn't been as just we haven't been on it all the time, every week, we miss weeks. And that's because, you know, th none of us this podcast is none of our full-time jobs. And if you hear somebody on it, that's because they're here on it. There's nobody behind that person giving them information. There's nobody behind the voices giving us, helping us write anything. We're the writers, we're the creators, we're the producers. We're doing it all, and you're seeing the talent as we're producing it ourselves. And maybe that's evident. Maybe we're not up to snuff, and that's whatever. We love doing this, and hopefully you see, some value to the podcast. Um but we're going to take a hard look at the podcast this next month and a half or so. The plan right now for me is to bring the podcast back on in January. Probably the week before the inauguration, just to kind of give some talking points about the inauguration and stuff. And even Moggs is in North Carolina, and not that his house or his livelihood was affected by the tornadoes and the hurricane there, but they've his family has been extensive in the helping to try to recover. I mean, they're getting um supplies ready around, and that hasn't just ended. Just because you don't hear about it 2 weeks later doesn't mean that that's ended. And so, you know so at this point, we're going to take some hard looks at ourselves. We're going to look at how we can structure this a little bit better so that it's more enticing, more exciting, um, just more engaging to you guys, to anyone who listens. And I say you guys like you're my friends and stuff because, that's how I look at it, is that I'm not just, I'm trying to be genuine here, and I'm trying to be a real person. I'm not just you here just, giving you, you know, I'm not just trying to, be something that I'm not. I'm not a character. The chef is not a character. The chef is, I am the chef, and I do have some character to products that I put out. I put out it's called the back row believer, but honestly, the back row believer is me also. And although I throw my, you know, my more southern accent, when I just get lazy about talking and just want to drawl it out a little bit, I throw that southern accent in. And with that, yeah, that's kind of a character bit. But this is not a character bit. This is me being me, talking to you. There's no script. I've got no, and maybe we'll go to some more scripted pieces where we read, I read off, I do a little bit better with a script or something. I don't know, but I've always, flown off the cuff, and I've always walked this as in real life as it came. And so, that's where we're at with it. And so we hope that that time is, that we're giving you the quality, even though we're not sitting here writing out word for word what we're doing, because I don't know that it would be as genuine and as real if we did just write it all out. If we scripted it out and wrote it out, I don't think it would be, it wouldn't be us. And so, I've got some news tonight, so don't just shut us off yet. But we just, as I'm going through this here, I just want you guys to know that, you know, we're still going to be polished. We're going to be more polished, hopefully. We're going to create a better version. And honestly, I know that as much as you guys, that the best podcasts are the ones that all of us get on and collaborate together. The the more people that I can bring on and bounce ideas off of and work together with, the better this podcast is. And honestly, I can see the numbers and things like that, and I know that, me by myself is not the best podcast. I'm the creator of the podcast. I had the idea for the name. I had the idea for for the kind of the concept, but it wasn't just a concept that I had the idea for. It was that me and Jay Boots and Honest Abe, we were sitting around, and honestly, we had the concept for driving around, and just, we have the best ideas when we're just hanging out, having a conversation, or we're just talking about whatever comes up. And that's honestly some of the funniest podcasts we've had have just been, we found an article, and we went from the title of the article and just spun it from there. We joke and laugh that, we honestly, we were ahead of our time, because we were creating video content with a Super 8 and or some DV tapes, and we were just, we were on the camera, just we'd rewind it, record over this part that wasn't so good, or we'd edit it by rewinding it back to make a little video snip to add into it. We made our own commercials. We did all of this stuff. And so I understand, like, we've been doing it for so long together, almost 20 years now. And or maybe even longer, because, me and Honest Abe have been our brothers, so we've been, whenever we had some little piece of technology, we were using it to do something stupid. And so we understand that that's when we're at our best. We're just trying to figure out how we can, bring you better content, or bring you content every week. And if we can't bring you content every week, then how do we make it a constant flow of content when it's not every week? And so the help that that I'm calling out for right now is that if you want to be part of the podcast, you hit me up on whyimangry@gmail.com, and you tell me what you want to do as part of the content, as part of the podcast. The big thing we need is content. Articles that, we need, that we need articles sent, topics sent to us. If you have a comment about the podcast, how good or bad or whatever, um, we need people to get on and like and share our content. That's a big one. Just even to kind of get us out, get our content out there. The more comments, the more interactive that we can be with you guys, that we can be with our listeners, the better that we are. And honestly, that's not just like us saying we're good at interacting, that we're interactive people because we're conversational. we're good we're storytellers. Whether we're good or not, that's up to you guys to decide. But that's the kind of people we are. We like to listen to a good story at the same time as playing off and just adding our story to that. Because as crazy as it's been, we've been through a lot of different cycles in our lives, a lot of different jobs and things like that. Me and Jay Boots used to be um, antiques and memorabilia experts, and we worked security together, and we even worked at Lowe's for a short time together, and learned how to ride and drive forklifts. I'm not sure that operating a forklift is the right term for what we did, but you know, riding and driving is definitely at least part of that. And so, I remember we were just, we were in the aisles of Lowe's the one time, and we were playing around with the safety knives, and we made it a game for a while that, if we could sneak up and stab the other one with the safety knife, which obviously the blade wasn't out or anything like that, but we were playing around, we were kids, and the one time we were making our list of the top 10 things to do to do for the day, and it never included actually doing our job status or job workload for the day. It always included, like, taking over a small village or building a catapult, or something like that just never made any sense. And so um but that's the kind of comedy and kind of, you know, sense of humor that we normally bring together. But I know that when we're separated, when we're not, when we're trying to do this on our own, that's not as strong, and we have our opinions, and that's why, you know, we're that's why I can still do the podcast. I can do the podcast on my own, but you guys don't wanna listen to me drone on for an hour or 2. Honestly, the last podcast, the reason that there was no video of the podcast is I was so tired from my 2-year-old being up and down 2 to 3 times a night, and, I'm trying to work on these Christmas lights, and I've got a big display I'm trying to do, and some other things, just regular life things and ministry, and trying to and building another podcast that, I was falling asleep during the podcast because I was reading a an article, and I was trying to get the information to you guys about this article, which was important, and to keep and I'm trying to keep the energy, but honestly, there just was no energy to me. I just didn't have the energy there, and so the podcast itself, if you listen to it, you can't tell that I'm really falling asleep, I don't think. Watch back over it, listen back to it, to make sure, to edit and everything like that. And that's another process that comes with all of these podcasts and stuff. As much as I want to be able to throw it live, there's times where I have to edit back through, and no amount of AI is editing right now. It's just not good enough to give you a good edit. And so, with that, we need help. And your $2 a month is awesome. But we're honestly not getting very many $2 a month. So maybe that's not how you want to help. Maybe you can't help. These Biden years has been slimming. Not so much to my belly, but to my wallet. And so I understand that. But if you read a good article, help me out. Hit the share button and hit the email whyimangrypodcast@gmail.com. We're not scamming you. We won't send you anything unless you want it. But send me the article and give me a what for on it. Hey, this article's about blah blah blah. Thought it might be funny to read, or thought it might be good for you. Or just send me the article. Your name, your email address, and whatever will pop up, and I'll be able to see, who's sending me things and help out, and I'll, if you want some credit or you don't want credit, then definitely put on there, don't mention me. And I'll just say a great American patriot, great angry patriot, sent us this article. But right now, I'm getting 0 articles. It'd be great to get 1 or 2 a week, maybe 3, at least. It'd be great to get 100 and have to, like, then spend my time vetting through your great articles, because that's I want you guys to be in charge of this podcast. Just because I'm gonna give my opinion, and I'm gonna try to educate you in a way that's, you know, humorous and at least backhanded, then that's what I'm gonna try to do. But I want you to give me what you wanna hear about. I know that you wanna hear about our ideas on the, uh the conspiracy theories, but I gotta get the other guys in here for that. I can't just, drone on about a conspiracy theory. It's always better when we're building off of each other's thoughts and stuff like that. And so, those are the things that we're going to have this hard look at ourselves. And if you never see me after this email or after this podcast, then it's because there was no support to it. The podcast ran its time. And if that's the case, I love you guys, and this has been a great experience. Get on our freestyle creative group pages on Facebook or whatever, or search us out on online, and find us there and find the other things that I do. But if this is, if this is the last time, which I don't think it is, then thank you guys. And I'm honored that you've listened to us this long, or that you've listened to us at all, because I know that there are plenty of other, great talking heads and people out there, but those people have people behind them. Joe Rogan doesn't go to his office, click on a camera, hit a button, and just start recording. Now, he may have moments where he can just do that, but then it's edited, then it goes through this guy and a producer and this guy, and 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 he's got all of those things. I literally came down today and you saw me. I hit the button, I hit the record button, and you guys saw me live. And I hit the button to go to turn on the music, and I brought my mic down, and there were some other things, and I honestly, this is a pre-recorded to go live, so that I knew if this was really what I wanted to send out. And if you're seeing this, obviously I wanted to send this out. And you're probably seeing this just a couple hours, or you're seeing this the next day after I recorded it. And I hope that you feel my heart in this. Is that I really love doing this podcast, because this is something that is important to me. I started this podcast. This podcast started way before the podcast. We threw a switch, and the power came on, and the lights and the green screen and all of this stuff. This podcast started back when President Obama started, campaigning, and there was no vetting for him. There was no major news organization that held him to the fire and disqualified him. I mean, can you think about, like, those voices weren't there, and I couldn't understand that. So I started a Facebook page called People Don't Exist, because the people didn't exist that were supposed to be there to raise the voices against him. And not because the world ended, or that he brought us into wars, or that we were attacked, or he destroyed the US, but he has signaled the beginning of a new era of just almost lawlessness, of just the fact that when you when you go and say something, normally there's somebody out there that's going to call you on it. And he said whatever he wanted to say and no one called him. He went to a church, or he was part of an organization or a church or whatever you want to call it, that was was calling for the end of white people, was calling for the end of police, was calling for the deaths of people. I remember that Mitt Romney, pretty sure it was Mitt Romney, was running for president, and I think it was Mitt Romney because he was a Mormon. I'm gonna look it up right now. This is how we do this is how we do the podcast. We look it up, and this is just coming to me. I think it was Mitt Romney. Let me look. Yeah, yeah. So Mitt Romney was a Mormon, and he was running for president at the time. And he didn't get through the primary, and not all of it, but part of the primary, part of the reason he didn't get through was because he was a Mormon, and in a lot of the US, the Mormon faith is considered a cult because it is because they basically they have a hierarchy, they have a leader, and they people are encouraged and asked to give all of their wealth so they can be distributed beyond to the members and whatever. And so it's considered, and so back when they were when like the and then even this article here says, why Mitt Romney's Mormonism doesn't matter. Well, it did matter. It may not matter now because we're a less religious country, and you can say that with all true intent, and even after this election, you can say that this is not as religious of a country because wh- you know we don't vet people out because of their religion anymore. Being a Catholic was considered a fringe or an outside, you know yeah, he's a Catholic. Can the Southern Bible Belt vote for a Catholic? The Southern Baptist Organization Committee, can they be, that kind of thing. And so, that's why we started this. Long story long, you know, I started a group called People Don't Exist because I felt like if you can convince people to vote for a guy who can't show you his birth certificate, who could be who could be a Muslim in a time when we were fighting Muslim nations because they bombed two of our biggest buildings. And you can say what you want about any of the conspiracy theories, but that's where our beliefs were at the time. And if you can convince people like that, then you can convince people that people don't exist. And honestly, that's, as a Christian believer, the the biggest thing that or the biggest deception that the devil ever did was to convince people that he didn't exist. And so if you convince people, if you can do all of that, you can convince people that they don't exist. And we we had a thing about people not existing, and how the person should always exist, but the people as a group, this mad mob of people, should never exist. This mob of people, it has power, and this mob of people start to get an idea, and this mob of people can either say, because of this, no one should ever do this, or this mob of people can get on and say, because of whatever happened, that we're going to rally against it. And so that mob of people is the Democratic Party right now. And luckily, some of us woke up, and some of us said, wait a second, we need to band together, and we need to make this, we need to at least come to some sort of agreement, and vote, the lesser of two evils. And I feel like that's partially what happened this cycle, is that yes, Trump was a good president. He did a lot of things. Do I follow the man because I want to hang out with him? No. Do I think that if I had a small business and Trump said, "Let me run your small business," I wouldn't say yes. I would say yes in a heartbeat, because he's a good businessman. He's proven that he can run a business. And he's honestly, for the most part, proven that he can run a country. And maybe last time he didn't surround himself with all of the most intelligent people, or he thought that he had people who could make decisions. And so with that, you know, we got together and we voted for the lesser of two evils. Do I think there's probably better candidates that could have run? Yes. Do I think a three-party system would be better than a one-party or a multiple party system where we as individuals could figure out who's the best person? Yeah, I think that would be the best case scenario. I think that if you were smart and you went through the merits of each person, which you have troubles anywhere anymore finding out, because there is no vetting system. There's no, the mass media doesn't vet people anymore. They don't go through the vetting process. And so, with that being said, I think that podcasts like this, the podcast that we bring, this is the reason why we bring it, is so that A, we can vet things. Two, we can help you think critically. We can bring ideas that you may not have thought about before. And maybe we bring all the same ideas, and that's terrible. And that's, and then don't follow us, don't help us, don't keep us going, because we're not providing anything for you. But if we're providing something for you, think about helping us out some way, supporting us in some way. Whether it's sending us an email that you're reading this great article, and you can send it, and I know that I get articles sent to me daily, and I get all of these news roundups and stuff like that. But the the articles that come out, the subjects that come out the best, are the ones that we're personally involved in. that we have some kind of stake in, you know, w- just going and reading the articles, and I could just, I can say, "Oh man, they're going to put landmines in Ukraine." And we're going to talk about that because we're going to talk about that. But at the same point, just getting sent the articles from another news organization, or a group that puts together a news email newsletter, I I'm more invested into, and this is maybe my ADHD, into the things that get sent to me. If you send me an article, I'm gonna do my darndest to figure out a fresh take, or all of the takes on it. And so if we don't do a subject, either it didn't interest me, or honestly, today I was busy getting the house around for company coming. Me and Mila ran around outside in the snow. It's first day of snow for the year. And we just played around in the snow a little bit. We did some grocery shopping. We cleaned some of the studio that didn't look like it when you got to see the studio pics real quick. But we did all of that, and honestly, I didn't throw the TV on, so I didn't see, what news happened this afternoon, or anything like that. And so, you know, in that, I can say, well, yeah, I was probably a little behind on headlines today, or something like that. But, you know, we also want to do what you guys, the things that you guys are wanting to hear about. If there's an article that you've read and you think, well, I want to hear more thoughts on that. Send it to us. Why I'm angry podcast at gmail.com. Why I'm angry podcast. I know it's why I am angry podcast. It's long, but, and I can put it up on the screen here for you. Yep. Nope, I don't have it on here, so I'll add it to my screen. So if you're watching this, or if you're on the podcast and you want to watch this so that you can see, what it is, then, you know, get on to our Facebook page. Oops. Why am I am angry podcast at gmail.com. Okay. So, and I'll put this on our comments and stuff like that so that you can see it. But make it real nice and big for you. Put it across the bottom here. Get a little background thing. Shadows, background. Yeah, add a background. Add a background. Let's do color. Let's make it black. Okay. Black. Okay. All right. Delete that. And we don't need a border. We just make it a box. All right. Save. It didn't put me a background. So just, that's really that, and that's why we want you to add, to do those things. I mean, that's why we want your info. That's why we want you to help us out. We want that help, that input, There we go. So we want you to get on and get, be part of the podcast. We're not just here to just talk your head off or to talk at you, willy nilly and all. We want you to be part of the podcast. And so get on, send us an email. And on top of sending us an email, follow, like, and share us on different podcast websites, on different podcasts. Even if you don't always get on the podcast on different sites, I'm sure you listen to music on different sites and things. You know, get on there and just shoot us a follow. If you never get back on that site again, we don't care. You follow us on all the sites that you can. That helps us with our algorithms, our metrics, our all of it. So let's get in the news and enough of the doom and gloom and all of that. But I might get on in December. You never know. But really, we're just gonna take some time to just kind of look back, look over the last couple podcasts, look over the last couple years of podcasting. We've been doing this since 2019 was when we first started putting out podcasts. And, a lot has changed. A lot of things have, we've done a lot of things differently. And we've added this video. We're doing all kinds of stuff. We're working with Spreaker to distribute out our podcasts. We're going to look at that and see if we need to change from them. Um, but we really, before we can have any kind of leveraging or any kind of advertising or anything like that, we need the follows. We need the people to get on and just to show that we have value. And you know, my mom says I'm special, but nothing says I'm special like sharing, liking, and following our podcast page. And you can find us on all kinds of different social medias at Why I'm Angry Podcast. So the only one that's not Why I'm Angry Podcast is X, and that is the Why I'm Angry Pod C2. Not sure how or why we got that, but it is at Why I'm Angry Pod C2. So just get on, help us out, check us out, look us up. We want to be more interactive with you. If you've always thought, oh, a podcast would be cool, and you want to be a talent or a personality, hit us up with an email about that too. I've got a page that we can send out to you, get some information about you. We've brought on extra people that maybe weren't I didn't know 100%. Peyton, until he got on the podcast. I knew of him, but I didn't know him personally. And so we met and learned and went from there. So you don't have to be best friends to get on the podcast. You just we need to make sure that we're not going to have a kick down, knockout, drag out fight on the podcast. And if we do have that at the end of the day, that we're going to be able to be amicable. Because the one thing I don't want to be in the Why I'm Angry podcast is I don't want you to leave angry and never come back, because it takes a special set of skills to get angry, get passionate, get loud, and all that about a subject, and then be able to you know continue to work and create great content with somebody without after that. So that takes some talent. It takes a bit of forgiveness that a lot of people don't have, and we're cool with that. There's some friends I have that I wouldn't put on the podcast because I don't think that a bout of argument or a bout of contradiction, um, would leave us friends or leave us family after that. And so let's get into it. President Joe Biden trying to give Joe Biden his due by giving him his title, president. Announced yesterday that the U.S. will send anti-personnel land mines to Ukraine. Like, we're in countries. This is just first thoughts popping off my head. We're in countries going through 30, 40, 50-year-old now minefields, trying to clear them so that random people like kids, dogs, kids wanting to play in an open field area are not getting blown up. We signed we signed a ban in 2022 about anti-personnel landmines, about landmines. About 160 countries signed that ban. Then in 1997, the Ottawa Convention banned the mines designed to detonate on contact. Russia and the U.S. were not part of that. It took us, yeah, yeah, yeah. So these are supposed to be, mines are reportedly non-persistent, designed to self-deactivate after a set period. Analysis estimates that since the war began, 20% of Ukraine's territory has become contaminated by mines. So I mean, they already got a landmine issue. And so then these landmines are supposed to like die after so many years, which proves that my phone, the washer, the dryer, the refrigerator can be set to deactivate themselves after so many years. And they can probably make it so that it's some kind of faulty wiring or something. That the wire just has a half-life, a corrosion rate of 5, maybe 6 years. And how many, when this war's over in 2 or a year or 3, how do we, how do we know where those landmines are so, that they're already deactivated? Maybe that landmine doesn't deactivate in 5 years, maybe it deactivates in 10. Like this doesn't seem very fail safe, and this doesn't seem like it just it is stupid. It's like, haven't we figured this out? If we introduce coyotes to take the deer down, then eventually we'll have a coyote problem. If we introduce landmines to take down the tanks, eventually we'll have a landmine problem. I mean, it's not the same. The landmines aren't going out and reproducing. Hopefully, really hopefully. But it's the same in the fact that when all of the tanks are gone, or even before all of the tanks are gone, you're continually putting out landmines in a place where people can't see them, so that the tanks get blown up. If they go over them, they don't see them and suss them out. I mean, come on. Like, can we? I know we believe in global warming, guys, but still, let's use our brains. We're gonna throw. We're gonna. This just goes to show you what happens when you put a person in power that isn't in power. Ukraine needs help, and he's doing everything he can because he owes Ukraine. No one in their right mind would just like, yeah, here's a box of landmines. You can have some more. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. We made them illegal maybe 40 years after the rest of the world made them illegal. But here you go. Even though we banned them, we still got them, obviously. I can't give you 800 million more dollars, but I'll give you landmines. I mean, so I guess there's this thing called a bomb cyclone, and a bomb cyclone is hitting or has is impacting Seattle, and the Pacific Northwest. So let's learn what is a bomb cyclone. I mean, a tornado, a cyclone is a pretty crazy thing anyways. Now we're going to add bomb to the equation. We're going to add name, just is this like, a Sharknado or something like that? I mean, come on. So a bomb cyclone apparently occurs when a storm system undergoes bombogenesis with its central pressure dropping rapidly within 24 hours. This particular storm system has been fueled by an atmospheric river, a band of moisture in the sky with water vapor levels comparable to the average flow levels at the mouth of the Mississippi, and the resulting weather system has unleashed hurricane level winds, which are less than tornado, but okay. Hurricane level winds in part of Oregon and Canada and Vancouver. Oh, and Vancouver Island, winds as high as 101 miles an hour and the equivalent of a category 2 storm. So that's the difference is if you look at hurricane winds versus tornado winds, you're going to see that winds from a tornado can move as fast as 300 miles per hour. Now that would be considered like a category 5. This thing is blowing everything down. It is, hopefully it's not going through your city. Where hurricanes tend to get to about 180 miles an hour or less because they're not like a tornado is not as much a rainstorm as it is a high pressure, low pressure system of wind and resulting storm systems around it, which is why there's an eye of the tornado or an eye of the storm. Is most of the time it's because there's two different systems coming together, and that's creating a vortex of weather. It's a vortex of pressure systems. So you're going to have a high pressure and a low pressure system coming together, and they're both trying to inhabit the same space. And so basically what happens is with a hurricane, you've got a longer time frame of it's going to move across, the ocean or the Gulf of Mexico or whatever, and it's going to take days to get there, and maybe it goes up the coast for a day or two or five or whatever, depending on how much of the ocean it can still hang on to, because it's being fueled by the water surges and all of that. where a tornado is being fueled by the pressure systems, and as soon as that pressure system dissipates wherever it hit, it could be the mountains, kill it off. It could be that, it just no long, those two have mingled enough. And if you remember, you put ice in a hot water or hot glass, that'll end up, mingling together, and you'll have, you'll hear the ice crack and all of that stuff. Kind of, it sounds a little violent-ish, depending on what level of NFL you like. But eventually it turns into lukewarm whatever. And so that's why a tornado is a lot quicker. The difference is that, you know, if you had a tornado that lasted 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 days at 150, 125 miles an hour to 300 miles an hour, uh, there would be none of us left. Like, the United States would be gone. At 300 miles an hour, it could pretty much traverse the United States in about 8 or 10 hours, get across to it. If it were moving at, that fast. Most of them don't quite move that fast, and they don't go that far. A few miles at a time, the drop, jump, things like that. Where, your hurricanes and stuff, um, they kind of move as a system, building building the storm as it is, by bringing more and more water and evaporation and stuff like that into the clouds, and building more clouds and things of that nature. So, so at 101 miles an hour, hurricane wise, you're at a category 2 storm. Tornado, you're on the low side of it. Heavy winds, rains, and snow are expected to continue impacting the region in the coming days. A separate storm due to hit the northwest tomorrow as the current storm moves east. So there just sounds like there's, this storm and then a second storm. I feel like bomb cyclone like acts like, oh yeah, we just threw a bomb in it and just blow up and it's big and whatever. So it doesn't seem like a very technical term to me, but whatever. We can add more adjectives to things, to create a more ominous sounding, but a more accurate sounding. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's more accurate. Maybe it's just like, maybe some guy just like, look at that. We just threw a bomb into a tornado, and this is what happened. So, it's just one of those deals, bomb tornado. But it is, like it, 2 people are dead, and about 600,000 customers have lost power. So we do need to be watching that. Um, Laken Riley's killer was sentenced. Georgia nursing student. We've gone all through that. Georgia nursing student was killed by a. We've seen all of the ads. A illegal immigrant. He was convicted yesterday on all 10 counts, of related to the February 22nd murder. Was sentenced to a life in prison without the possibility of parole. The trial, which began on Friday, followed the relatively rare trajectory in which a criminal defendant foregoes their rights to a trial, in by jury in favor of just a bench trial. Which, I mean, depending on where he got his trial, and I didn't really look at it, but there was DNA evidence and there was surveillance video, and so, even in that, it's strange that if you went to a you went to trial, like, why wouldn't you just see if you could plead to a lesser charge and just admit it? So he entered the U.S. illegally. His immigration status didn't play a role in the trial, although he kind of has to a little bit because he's not a legal citizen, you know. But I mean, his immigration status played a lot in the actual election. But yeah, so anyhow, if as long as he got a fair trial, I guess his immigration status doesn't matter. Other than the fact that he did break the law to even be in this country, and so there should be legal repercussions on that. I'm not sure, like now, if he goes to jail here, I'm sure Mexico isn't like knocking down the door or whatever to get him back, or extradite him. But if he does, now as citizens, we're paying for that person to live here. So unfortunately, now he's gotten here illegally and he killed someone illegally, obviously. Now we're legally afforded the right to have to pay for him. I mean, doesn't seem right, but whatever. Um, my Tigers, Tariq Skubal got Cy Young, AL Cy Young, Chris Sale, which I'm not sure how he's still pitching, but Chris Sale got Cy Young from the Braves. So one bright spot, and the Tigers made it to the playoffs, beat a team, got Cy Young. Now, will he be on the team next year? Come July, we'll see. Because they had already talked about last year's sending him on for how many ever millions of dollars and how many picks and whatever. So, a couple things like that going on. And then I had an article again. The International Criminal Court, the ICC, went in and created warrants against Benjamin Netanyahu and the and their Minister of Defense, Yoav Gallant. Well, their former Minister of Defense, Yoav Gallant, basically alleging war crimes and crimes against humanity for their roles in Israel's ongoing military offensive in the Gaza Strip. So basically, what I've read about this is that the ICC is the International Criminal Court, and it is basically like they had the Nuremberg trials, and they had the what was it, Nuremberg, and gosh, I can't remember that other one. It's right here, right here, right here. Oh, then the Tokyo um, tribunals, and basically this is the world court that basically is set up to. This is the one in The Hague that is set up to do war crimes. They try people on um World War II crimes, all of anytime you've heard of the War Tribunal getting together and um, arresting someone or trying someone on war crimes, this is the group that does that. So something that I wasn't aware of that in over 21 years of trying of doing things, they have never indicted a pro-Western official. So anybody like you said, like the U.S., any England, and nobody from France, Belgium, you know anybody that was for the Allies in World War II, nobody has ever been indicted in that. So Benjamin Netanyahu and Gallant are the first two pro-Western, because Israel is a Western country basically, or at least a ally to the Western. They were part of the Allies in World War II, although that wasn't a country in World War II. But anyhow, so they are part of the pro-Western group, and they've never gone after somebody from those countries. Obviously, Putin has a warrant out for his arrest, and a few other major people. In 2002, the George Bush administration signed a law, bipartisan bill permitting the use of military force to liberate any U.S. or allied personnel charged with war crimes by the court. And basically, in the world, the bill was known as into the human rights community, the Hague Invasion Act. And basically, I didn't realize this, but there are um, the ICC, or the act covers any military personnel elected or appointed officials in the U.S., or anyone employed by or working on behalf of the government, um, or of a government of a NATO member, um, a major non-NATO ally, which non-NATO allies, because the NATO is that the Baltic group, um, is includes Australia, Egypt, Israel, Japan, Jordan, Argentina, the Republic of Korea, and New Zealand or Taiwan. And so those are all our non-NATO allies, plus our NATO allies. Those are all countries that we would go to. We would use military force if they were tried as a war criminal. So if Benjamin Netanyahu goes to a country that respects ICC as a governing body, and he is arrested, then we are obligated by our laws or required by our laws to then go fight to get him out. So, yeah. This and not that it's a giant thing, but it's going to restrict his travel. Um and so basically there's 120 odd, 25 I think is what it was that they said, countries that do follow the ICC and 124 countries, um around the world that have signed the Rome Statute ratifying the court. And the U.S. and Israel are obviously not among them. Though the court has now rejected Israel's claim that it holds no jurisdiction over its actions. Now that the warrants are issued, any member state that Netanyahu or Gallant may travel in the future would be obligated to arrest the Israeli officials if they enter their territory. So 124 countries that he cannot go to now. Obviously, that I mean, it restricts his travel. So he can stay in Israel. He can come to the U.S. You know, there are some countries around that, some of those countries include France, Belgium, and Netherlands. They all have said that they will abide by the ruling of the court, making so that he can't go to any of those countries. The European Union has said that, even though that the Biden administration has made it clear that it rejects it, um, that they do stand by the court. So EU, you could probably go to England maybe, but just it's going to restrict his travel until something is, and maybe he goes with this warrant and proves his cause. At the same time, it's a human rights organization. Basically, that's what this court is set up for. Is it's if you've created a war crime or you've done a war crime, which is a humanitarian issue, like you've killed so many people, or you created a war that just killed citizens, and you know, so I guess it comes down to on this is whether you think that he's attacking citizens on purpose, or he's trying to provoke by attacking citizens. um and maybe he is, maybe his his strategy is that those citizens are collateral damage, and they're acceptable collateral damage in the grand scheme of things. And in that, that's a sad thought or a sad way to think about it. um you know but at the same time, he could be sitting there thinking that obviously war is bad, things happen in war, people die, and there are innocent people who end up in the wrong spot at the wrong time. And it's not acceptable, and it's not a but it is war. It is the facts of war, whether it's acceptable or not. How many people dying of murder and rape, or gun violence, or knife violence, or hammer violence, or shark attack are acceptable every year? How many? I mean, how many people just dying of random incidents is an acceptable level? But the fact of the matter is that people still die every year of random bear attacks, or of the accidental weather calamity, or frostbite, or frostbite because they went out drinking and got caught in outside because they couldn't find their keys. You know, these random like these random things that happen to people, they happen, and it's not acceptable, but at the same time, you 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 can't educate that out of people, and you can't figure, you can't be we can't do nothing for the sake of a few people that are going to end up in the wrong place at the wrong time. And as sad as that sounds, like, we can be as careful as possible, but just like with a hurricane or something like that, you can give people as much warning as you want. People are still going to try to ride it out. And they gave the people weeks and weeks to get out because it's a war zone. It's going to be a war zone. Told them when they take shelter, they can come to other areas of Israel to take shelter, but the area is going to be a war zone, and there's going to be some level of casualty. And so in that, I know it's not acceptable, but at the same time, for the greater good of your country, for the greater good of security, you have to look at it. You have to go into it with a level of, we warned people. We have given them every accommodation possible to be safe, and yeah, it's not cool to have to move out of your home. But it's just like in any state in the US, if that home is not accommodating to you, you have to make the decision to do what's right for yourself. And if you stand on principle, then you die on principle. Live by the sword, die by the sword. It's pretty simple. And so who then is responsible in that, do we hold people, do we hold foreign dignitaries responsible for war and for trying to make, to make making the hard decisions to keep us safe? Because honestly, that's what they should be doing. And in that same point, if they don't keep you safe, don't you normally whine and moan and complain to them, or bring them up on, charges, or at least you don't vote for them anymore? I forgot. We had Biden. 2 years of Barack Obama. But, you know. So yeah, I mean it is a bad situation, but war crime seems a little heavy-handed. Um he's not going out looking for Palestinians to shoot. He's looking for the leaders of Hamas. Hamas is not a race of people. They are a military militant terroristic organization. They're not a tribe of people. They're a they're a terroristic organization that has a belief system, and they're funded by Iran. And so they carry out a lot of that undermining of the population, undermining of society, the propaganda against the Western culture, or against Israel, and they perpetuate a lot of anti whatever propaganda. They perpetuate that anti Israel, anti establishment, anti America feeling, and that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own freedom of thought, but let's actually be thinking. Let's use our brains the way that they're supposed to be used and think for ourselves instead of, giving into that mob mentality that says, "Oh, because of thousands of years of fighting, we should continue fighting for the honor of our ancestors." Your ancestors are dead. Your ancestors are buried in the ground. And if your ancestors were Christian or they're in heaven or whatever, they're they don't care about, you know, I mean, as silly as it is, Mike Tyson and his legacy thing isn't 100% wrong. Yes, as a Christian, I want my legacy to be that my family were Christian, became Christians and followed the same God that I did. And so eventually, when we go to heaven, we can all be there together. But I don't know if that's as much about the legacy of each generation becoming Christian as much as just the fact of being selfish and wanting my family to be there with me. And maybe it is legacy that you want that next, but I don't care if they remember me personally. Oh, my grandpappy Hanover, Aaron Hanover, was a Christian, and so we follow, but that's it. I don't want them to follow the God of Abraham or the God of Aaron. I want them to have their own God, their own experience with God, their own relationship with him. And so, you know, legacy wise, you can say, I'm fighting for the honor of my ancestors, but you know, fight for the future. And if that future is like, what what help does fighting get, your future kids? If you were all Israelis or you were all Palestinians or you were all united together or you lived your life somewhere else, following your beliefs in freedom, then that seems more important than just like fighting for a piece of land or a piece of dirt that at the end of the day you're going to be buried in. So, all right, since I said I hadn't gone through the news too much, that was an article from somewhere else. Let me see if there's anything else we needed to talk about. Kenyan president cancels major deals with Adani Group. Statement from Joe Biden on warrants issued from the International Court. He basically said that he's not going to uphold them because they have no jurisdiction. All right, let's make sure. The ICC issuance of arrest warrants against Israeli leaders is outrageous. It's outrageous. Let me be clear once again. Whatever the ICC might imply, there's no equivalence, none, between Israel and Hamas. They did also issue warrants for Hamas leaders. One who had died a couple weeks ago, another that had been killed 3 or 4 months back, or they say has been killed. Israel says has been killed 3 or 4 months back. And it says, we will always stand with Israel against threats to its security. So at least, that's the statement from President Joe Biden. on official White House website. So that's at least there's that. U.S. House passed a bill to punish nonprofits deemed to support terrorism. Seems pretty common sense. Trump chooses loyalist Pam Bondi for Attorney General after Matt Gaetz decided to fall back. I heard that there was a ethical portfolio or something like that that had been held back for a while. And maybe he got the hey, if you just step back from the Attorney General's pick, then we'll just not release this and let you continue to do your thing. So, there's that. Let's see. That's about it for a round that I see right off the top of my head. So, guys, like I said, this will be the last one until the first of the year. We're going to take some time off, really think about what we're doing with our lives, and, figure out whether we still have the time and the gumption, the energy, the ability to run this thing, and see what we can do better. So, again, you guys send me a bunch of emails all of a sudden this week, and you never know. Maybe next week I'll be right on, and the week after. So give me some support. Show me you love us, and send us those emails. You want to be a part of the podcast. You want to be help. You want to edit. You want to do. Want to produce whatever. Um, we can work out a deal there too. So send me those emails if you want to be part of the podcast. We're just, I'm to the point where 5 years in, we need to pivot and either get better by a good margin, or, we need to just put this on the back burner and start a new project. Try to try to do something else. And not that we're trying to get famous or anything like that, but try to figure out where our niche is, and how we can do our niche in this confines that we're given right now in our lives. So get on, follow, like, and share us. We love you guys, and just like every other time, remember to follow, like, and share the Why I'm Angry podcast across all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast. The Why I'm Angry podcast ends now.